Good people, we got some stuff we need to talk about. Man, we got some that we need to talk about. Jesus. Oh man, welcome to episode 4 for all my people who still watch wrestling. Welcome to Yes, we still watch wrestling. I'm Steven Dent, showing love to my co-host Shaq. He's injured right now, hurt himself playing ball, so wish my bro speedy recovery. I'm gonna hold it down until he gets straight. Um, hopefully he's back soon. But until then, I'm gonna hold it down for him, man. So man, this called episode 4, but we straightly just recapping WrestleMania. Um, I'm toned like this because I just watched Cody versus Roman again. So I could have easily did this episode on Monday. I could have easily did this episode on Tuesday. I could have did this episode any day this week, right? But excuse me real quick. But um I didn't want to give an instant reaction because I feel like that's what we all do, right? We all give the instant reaction. I feel like that's what Instagram and Twitter is for. But when I went to record this episode, I wanted to have more than just an instant reaction. I wanted to have a great reaction. I wanted to have the realistic reaction. So I wanted to watch WrestleMania in its entirety all over again. Well, let me take that back. Not in its entirety. There's a couple matches I left out, but I wanted to watch WrestleMania. I say a good 75% of it over again. Um, to kind of talk about how I felt about it. Talk about excuse me the car overall, where we go from here, everything of that nature. Of course, if you don't know, I have a son, I have a job, I have other stuff as well. So I wasn't able to, of course, binge watch it all in one day. WrestleMania was 2 nights, but it was a couple match. It was some matches that I was able to rewatch and get a realistic feeling to kind of see, okay, was I reaching a little bit on some of my instant reactions, or was some of my instant reactions justified? Man, I could tell you, and we're gonna talk about it here in a few, but watching Cody versus Roman again, it's kind of like for all my Marvel fans. I know for me, the first time I watched Endgame, right, it didn't really hit. It was sad, but it didn't really necessarily hit me the way it did the second time. Pause if necessary. Um, the first time you watch it, you just in awe of the action, the story, what I'm saying, everything that happened. And the second time, you realize like Doctor Strange throws at that one towards Tony, and you know what's about to happen, and then the funeral happens. I've shed a tear every time I watch since then. I almost shed a tear tonight for Cody. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Like just watching that again, knowing what's gonna happen, how it's gonna unfold, knowing what it means, knowing the reaction from Samantha, from Michael Cole, from Seth tearing up after all the drama they've been through. Um, it was a genuine moment, man. So, um, but let's get into it, man. WrestleMania 40. Um, I Here's my opinion on WrestleMania 40, and the instant reactions, of course, is in the group chat. So I said something in the group chat that some of my homies had a problem with. Shout out to Willie, shout out to Rab. Me and Rab was live all weekend for WrestleMania, man. Y'all make sure y'all follow him, Rab underscore live 251. Y'all make sure y'all follow him. We was live together all weekend talking about Mania. So shout out to him, shout out to Willie. I said something and some people didn't agree. So once again, I wanted to go back and rewatch it. I felt like instant reaction wise, WrestleMania 40 is easily a top 3 Mania of all time. Um, that was my reaction after I watched it the first time. And my reasoning was because there's a few things that factor into watching the WrestleMania. Number one, the quality of the matches, right? We gotta have great matches. Two, the storytelling. The story pays off. Like you you build up stories throughout, Raw, SmackDown, or whatever shows they on, and the pay-per-views in between, right? But WrestleMania is supposed to be the ultimate payoff for any story, especially if it's been going on for about a year. So the storytelling and then the moments, right? There's a reason why some matches may not be classic matches, but they have classic moments. For example, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant wasn't necessarily a classic match, but it had a classic moment. With a few actually. Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, not a classic match, but had classic moments. So how were the moments? Were they something that we will remember for a long time? So the first thing I did, because I immediately said there are 7 to 8 matches on this card that have at least a 4-star rating. And I said there's 7 matches that you could argue could be match of the weekend. I said that before Roman versus Cody. I just want to put that out there. Um, so I went back and watched all of those matches. Except for when I didn't watch the 6-man tag. There was no need to rewatch the 6-man tag. The 6-man tag, it was a great match. You could argue it's anywhere, but for me, it's anywhere between 3.75 stars and 4 stars. Anywhere in between there. But it was a great match with no need to rewatch it. You know what I'm saying? Served its purpose. Even though we'll talk about later. Matter of fact, we could talk about it now. Our Truth. That was probably my favorite moment of the entire weekend. People forget Our Truth almost had his leg amputated not too long ago. Debuted in WWE when he was 27 to have his first moment at 52. Think about that. At 52, have his first moment, being able to get a WrestleMania win, his first win. That was a pretty big moment. But it was no need to rewatch the match. But matches I did rewatch. Rhea versus Becky, for starters. Rhea versus Becky, that was definitely a contender for match of the weekend, for sure. Rhea versus Becky was dope. The transitions in the match was great. The way that Rhea dominated most of the match, kind of, she played the heel role to a T. Becky played the babyface role to a T, but they both had good moments, good spots. I'm not sure if it was better than Rhea versus Charlotte the previous year, but it was a great match. So this is one thing I've said about Bianca was Bianca gave us 3 manias in a row with 2 classes and one great match with Oscar that some people might consider a classic. I consider a great match, not a classic. This is two. This is 2 manias in a row that Rhea has given us an instant classic. That's at least a 4.5-star match, not a 5-star, but anywhere between 4.5 and 4.75 for sure. That was a phenomenal match, man. You go to the 6-man tag. I didn't rewatch that. On night one, you also had one of the 5-star matches for the weekend. There's 2 5-star matches, in my humble opinion, for night one of Mania. And the first one is, without a shadow of a doubt, Sami Zayn versus Gunther. Sami Zayn versus Gunther, you had the ultimate build up, right? From the beginning to him being in the entrance, talking to his family, to getting the pep talk for Chad Gable, who was helping train them for the match, to he walking up the ramp and he see Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens hypes him up. And then you have the whole build up with his wife being ringside, Gunther being the dominant yet arrogant champ, and kind of takes for granted, you know what I'm saying, how resilient Sami Zayn is. And it was an incredible match, man. Shout out to Gunther, man. I was happy to see him lose simply because I'm ready to see him take that next step and go after either the World Heavyweight title or the WWE Undisputed title. Man, a rivalry between him and Cody would be money. I mean, money. I hope he gets drafted to whatever promotion Cody Rhodes is on. And I hope he wins that belt at Bash at Berlin. I really do. Um, but that's just me. But I'm ready to see him take that next step. Gunther, man, you can't find a bad Gunther match over his entire reign. Matter of fact, I can't find a bad Gunther match since he's debuted in WWE at NXT, when he was in NXT UK. So, man, Gunther long overdue. Shout out to him. But you know, it's even better when the story is when the storyline is great. But it's even better when the wrestling is great. And Sammy, he's the ultimate underdog, man. And the move he did, that that top turnbuckle brainbuster that he did, man, like he didn't see that coming a mile away. Typically, there are sequences and matches where when the sequence start to happen, you know it could be the end of the match, right? But you know the moves that are coming. For example, you know Roman does the Superman punch that leads up into the spear and stuff like that. You know, Gunther does the Tyrannosaurus drop kick that leads into, could be a splash, could be a power bomb, could be a sleeper. Gunther got about four finishers, right? But for him to do that brain buster that led into the sequence, it was almost like, look, like in order to beat Gunther, I gotta pull something out. I gotta pull a rabbit out the hat. I gotta do something different. And he did, man. Was able to win that match, man. That match was phenomenal. 5-star match in my opinion. And then you got Roman and Rock versus Cody and Seth. That was 4.5 stars in my opinion. That was a great main event. Some people would say the main event was too long. Cool. I thought they gave you everything you wanted in the tag match. They protected Rock, by having, not necessarily a stipulation, but letting them get away with breaking some of the rules. You protect Rock, because we all know like Cody and Seth can out wrestle Rock in their sleep at this point in their careers. Um, so you protect Rock. Um, I was surprised that The Rock pinned Cody. Actually, going into the main event, I had, and it looks stupid now, but I had Seth and Cody winning because I thought it would be a 1-on-1, and I thought somebody would cost Cody the belt again. But like somebody new joining the bloodline or whatever. But you know, the match was great. It has your twists, has your turns, it has spots. Cody rock bottom the Rock through a table. It was all types of stuff, man. That was a great main event, man. Before we get into the um the other matches that I rewatched, I will talk about one blunder real quick. The 6 woman tag between, I call it Black Girl Magic, Black Girl Magic, Bianca, Jay, and Naomi versus Damage Control. That did what it needed to do. Everybody had some spots, but it was a Jade Cargill show. Did what it needed to do. Um, there was another match. Oh, Ray and Andrade versus Santo Escobar and Dom did what it needed to do. I respect, because once again it's about moments, right? So I respect and enjoyed Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey coming out. It wasn't necessary though. That was a dope spot. I want to say his name is Yo Kim. That was a dope spot by him. How he flew to the ramp off the middle rope. So that was dope. Um, but Jay Uso versus Jimmy Uso. Um, I posted a reel a couple weeks ago saying how I felt like it had the potential to be a classic match. Shout out to my brother Willie. Willie put it best. It was simply a fight between brothers, right? Simply a fight between brothers. It wasn't a classic match. Even with that being said, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I was disappointed in that match. Even with it being a fight between brothers, it wasn't no spots. It wasn't nothing we could remember. Um, After 8 minutes into the match, we got a bunch of super kicks. So I love Jimmy and Jay. Um, Especially I love the run that Jay on right now. But that match, it could have been better. Now, shout out to my bro Jasper. Jasper made a good point to me when we was talking. He was like, he felt like at this point, that Jay is on another level than Jimmy, and it could have been a situation where, in order to protect Jimmy and not have Jay outclass Jimmy, because you gotta think about it, like he said, like Jasper said, Jay's been wrestling week after week after week, and he's been wrestling top stars. He's been wrestling Gunther. He He wrestled Cody Rhodes. He wrestled Seth. He wrestled Sami Zayn. He's wrestled week after week after week against top people, right? Drew McIntyre. Whereas Jimmy, he's barely wrestled since Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? So maybe that's a way to protect him, but I was very disappointed in that match. In all honesty, that's the only match of the entire weekend I was disappointed in. So jumping over to, I want to make sure real quick that I'm not forgetting the match from night one. No, I'm not. So going into night two. Now, night two, I will say this real quick. Before night two started, I gave night one overall a B. Because you had three matches that was at least 4 stars. In my opinion, Roman and Rock versus Cody and Seth, 4.5 stars. Rhea and Becky, 4.5 stars. Excuse me. And Gunther and Sammy, 5 stars, right? But you had that blemish with the Usos. I would get that match a C minus, 1.75 to 2 stars. And then some basic matches that was cool but not rewatchable, except for the 6-man tag. I do get that 6-man tag a B to B plus. I would give it 4 stars. I would. If anybody said 3.75, I'd be happy with that. But night two did what it was supposed to do. Night two elevated WrestleMania 40 to another level. With night two, you start off with Drew and Seth. Man, I mean, from the gate, he opens up with a Claymore. It's a back and forth match. Drew, so for the most part, dominates the match, but Seth definitely has some spots. Seth curb stomped him on the top of an announcement table, on an announce table. It was a back and forth match with great transitions, man. Great wrestling, and then you give Drew his moment. Drew earned that moment. He held it down. You got to reward people. He held it down in the pandemic. There was a few wrestlers that held it down in the pandemic when nobody was in the stands. That's Roman Reigns. Off the top of my head, by the way, I might forget somebody, but that's Roman Reigns. That was Seth Rollins. That was Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Drew McIntyre. Off the top of my head, those are the superstars that held it down. I mean, held it down. And so he deserved that payoff. Yeah, and I like what they did. They gave him his moment. It wasn't like it was short and it wasn't like like the next thing that happened was right after he won. They let him have his moment with his family and everything like that. CM Punk attacks him, and then next you know, Damian Priest comes out. At first I was upset because I was like, yo, like, let's be honest, as the WWE universe, as wrestling fans, right? We never were big fans of Damian Priest actually winning the Money in the Bank contract. That's not something that we ever wanted. That's not something that we ever thought was a good idea, right? I don't even think nobody right now thinks he's gonna have a long title run. Damian Priest is good. I like Damian Priest, man, but when you talk about champ, that's not somebody that we saw, right? But if it was going to happen, you had to do it at Mania. It had to be at Mania. Raw, doing it on SmackDown after Mania or Monday Night Raw after Mania, it just wouldn't have been the same. So it had to been at Mania. So at first, I'm like, dang, like they really not gonna do this. But once CM Punk attacked Drew, I knew it was gonna happen, and it did. The crowd went crazy. One of the best, and he talked about in interviews, said one of the best South of Heaven choke slams he's ever done. And immediately when I done it, I was like, yo, that's the best one I've ever seen him do. Wins the belt, immediately goes up the ramp like Seth did, and hells it out with Judgment Day, man. So that was a big win, a hell of a way to open up Mania. Once again, the moments, but with a great match, like a moment, a great match. I get that match anywhere from 4 stars to 4.25 stars. I probably go 4.25. I'll be honest. That was a great match, man. Then you go from Drew and Seth. I want to say the what was it, triple that? No, the Philadelphia Street Fight. Once again, cool, good moment seeing Bubba Ray Dudley there. I wish Devon would have came out. But that was a cool match. Cool, nothing crazy. The triple threat match, man, with Logan Paul, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. Another great match, man. I give that match 4 stars too. You know what I'm saying? For anywhere from 4 to 4.25. That was great wrestling, great storytelling. Logan playing the cowardly heel. KO and Randy showing each other mutual respect until it was time to throw down. Astro Speed takes the RKO on the table. I thought it was KSI in there the whole time, and they get this. It's been very unpredictable who's going to be in that prime bottle. But just that, man, like that was a great match too. I had KO winning, but I should have known Logan was gonna win because they got SummerSlam in Cleveland. So you got to make them an attraction in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So that match was a great match. I rewatched that. You have, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, LA Knight versus AJ Styles. That match actually exceeded my expectations. He gave them a little bit more time to go than I thought it was going to be. Um, that might be AJ Styles' best WrestleMania match. That was a great match, man. I give it 3.75 stars. It wasn't a 4-star match, but it was a good match though. It was. It was a good match, and then you had so 2 matches left because it was only, if I'm not mistaken, it was only 5 matches on night 2. Let me count 1, 2, 3. It was 6, but the last 2, outside of Rock, I'm sorry, I keep saying Rock. Outside of Roman and Cody, Sammy and Gunther had the better match, and I'm saying this now. I might wake up tomorrow and change my mind because literally this morning I had this next match number 2, and I had Sammy versus Gunther number 3, and then I rewatched it and I switched it. But I might wake up tomorrow and feel differently. My favorite match of the weekend outside of Roman versus Cody might have been EO versus Bailey. I said one of our very first streams, we asked who was our favorite wrestlers, right? Our top 5 favorite wrestlers as far as men and women. And then my top 5 was EO. I'm one of those people who I am such a fan of the black and gold era NXT. I binged like in a month. I watched every NXT takeover there was. Io Sky is the real deal, but she's never got a chance to have her moment. She's had great matches. If you think about it, she rarely defended the title in pay-per-views. I'm not sure why. And most of her matches was on like SmackDown, but I felt like they was gonna let her, like Trips was gonna let her wrestle and make her a star. She came out a star. There's 2 people, well actually 4, the entire weekend that put on an absolute wrestling clinic as far as in ring wrestling, and I'm leaving out Roman and Rock. Not because I don't think I think they put on a master class too, but I'm just gonna leave them out there because they were the main event. But Io Sky, Roxanne Perez, which I'm gonna give a quick shout out to NST Stand and Deliver here in a moment. Roxanne Perez, Io Sky, Roxanne Perez, Gunther, and Sammy. But specifically Io and Roxanne Perez, they put on a wrestling clinic, and Io, what she did in that match, man, the transitions, the spots, her technique, her precision, man, like doing everything from aerial moves to submissions. Like there's nothing in the ring that EO can't do. Like she literally has no weaknesses as far as in ring ability. The only, and even her character is over with the fact that she can't really talk for real as far as speaking English, but her character is over, man. Remember like when she won Money in the Bank, even before that, people used to chant EO all the time. EO is a phenomenal wrestler, and I'm glad she got that spot, especially against somebody like Bailey, who also is a phenomenal wrestler. The transitions, selling the injuries. Shout out to Bailey because LA Knight did not sell his knee injury. So everything, the attention to detail, the storytelling, them fighting like girls normally do in the beginning, just pushing each other, grabbing each other hair, and then the remarks that were made during the match or whatever. I don't know if anybody caught that, but there was a point where EO apologized to Bailey in and not in Spanish, in Japanese, and then like punched in the face. So it was great, man. That match was phenomenal. And then of course the main event. Um, I seen a post the week before WrestleMania, and it asked in the post, and I'm gonna go to my list here in a second. But it asked in the post, what would be your top? You matter of fact, not even your top, but your WrestleMania main event Mount Rushmore. For me, it would be Warrior versus Hogan, simply because of the moment. And Hulk Hogan finally passing the torch. He didn't pass it for long, but he passed it for that time being. Um, Hogan versus Warrior, I would say HBK versus Shawn Michaels, which I think is the greatest, not only the greatest WrestleMania match, but the greatest match of all time in WWE history. Um, the third one, I will probably have, and I'm thinking out loud, maybe Rock versus Austin, WrestleMania 17. No, I'm sorry. No, my third one would be Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 12. My fourth one, without a shadow of a doubt, and we just doing Mount Rushmore, it's not in order, is Rock versus, I mean, I keep saying Rock, Roman versus Cody too. Roman versus Cody too, man. And I just rewatched it. So I'm telling you this after a rewatch, not an instant reaction. It's one of the greatest main events, if not the greatest main event of all time. Um, the only reason why I'm saying if not the greatest is because the first WrestleMania with the first match between Undertaker and Shawn, WrestleMania 25, that wasn't a main event. That's a better match, but it wasn't a main event. If y'all remember, it was fifth on the card. Um, Now WrestleMania 26, Taker versus Shawn. I don't know if it was better than this, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is probably the best main event in WrestleMania history, and a lot of you not gonna say it, like not gonna believe it. A lot of you gonna feel like it's an instant reaction. A lot of you gonna think it's too generous. When you watch this match, the match gives you everything you would want in a wrestling match. Like honestly, as a wrestling community, right? We do a lot of nitpicking. We do a lot of complaining. We do a lot of picking and choosing. It's a lot of inconsistency, right? But when you think about a WrestleMania main event, I want you, and I want to key on that. A WrestleMania main event. What did we talk about earlier? Storytelling. We talked about having a great match, and we talked about moments. This match has no weaknesses. The first 25 minutes of the match, these boys is wrestling. Pause. Like they are wrestling. Roman Reigns is wrestling. Like you can't watch this match and call him five moves of doom. Like he even did a crossroads. He did a perfect plex. He did a crossroads. This was like before everything else that happened after. Before the moment Jimmy Uso comes in the ring, that's a 4.5 match without us even getting to the finish. Then we get to the finish and the storytelling, man. The storytelling in the match before all of that happened. Roman interacting with the crowd. One of the funniest moments was when Roman said that he did the crossroads and he was like, "Man, that move is trash. Nobody." He said nobody wins with that move. Um, and then you got, excuse me, Jimmy comes out. Jimmy comes out to help Roman as always, but who comes out next? Jey Uso. And then they get into it, spear off the stage. Solo follows back with the same spear, the same Samoan spike that he did before. And they do the Samoan spike spear combo. Looks like it's about to be over. Who comes out next? John Cena. John Cena, after getting destroyed by Solo, Night of Champions, he comes back, puts Solo through a table. Then The Rock comes out with that history. WrestleMania 28, WrestleMania 29. knowing that they didn't like each other in the beginning. Rock comes out, rock bottom to Cena. Now, from what I read today, and I'm recording this on April 12th. From what I read today, it looked like they tried to get Stone Cold, but wasn't able to come up with a number that Stone Cold would agree with. Which tells me if it was Vince in charge, Vince would have paid him the money. But since it's Trips in charge, Trips is like, look, like we want you to be in here, but we don't need you that bad. Hence why the Undertaker did it. You hear the gong, crowd goes nuts. Undertaker choke slams the Rock. Lights go out and everybody is out of the ring except for a chair and the Mama Rose belt. Roman grabs the chair, and a part that I skipped was that you hear the Shield music. Now I can't be the only one. Let's just be honest. Even if it's unrealistic, I can't be the only one who thought that Dean Ambrose, John Moxley had came back. I can't be the only one that thought that. Maybe unrealistic, but I can't be the only one that thought that. Before Seth could even hit The Rock with a chair, Roman Reigns Superman punches him. Right? I wish that, matter of fact, if I missed it, let me know. But I wish there was footage of where Seth came from. Because I don't know whether he came from underneath the ring. I don't know if he came from the crowd. We don't know where Seth came from. So hopefully somebody got some footage from the crowd or whatever where Seth came from. So Roman grabs the chair and he lets it Seth. Same position that he was in as far as when Seth turned his back on him. He hits Seth instead of Cody. Tries to spear Cody. Cody hits him with 3 crossroads. But that third one looked different because it was like, all right, there's nobody left. And so Roman, after all these years, can't get over the Shield breakup, and it costs him the title. Samantha Irvin is emotional. Michael Cole is emotional. You have people emotional in the ring. It's everything that you want in professional wrestling. A real life true story comes into, the professional wrestling world. How Cody was legit heartbroken and everything of that nature behind his WWE departure, goes on and makes himself into a star. And he was, and I still don't understand why. Like I said, wrestling fans are inconsistent, but he was getting booed out the gym in AEW, and he comes over and he's a beloved hero. Daniel Bryan is maybe more than Daniel Bryan because those ovations for Cody was out of this world. So it has no flaws. Some people gonna say, oh, it was a little too over the top as far as the main event is concerned, right? Well, it was Bloodline Rules. What did you guys expect? When they said Bloodline Rules, we knew it was gonna be interference. We knew it was gonna be extra people in the ring, right? So how do you balance that out and make sure Cody still wins? You do what you did at the end. And then if y'all notice, and I'm pretty sure y'all been reading up on stuff like I've been reading up on stuff, but when you pay attention to everybody that was in the ring, everybody that was in the ring had got screwed over by the bloodline at some point in this entire bloodline saga. Randy Orton was in the ring. He got screwed. Jey Uso, we know that story. LA Knight, I want to say he fought Roman twice in the Fatal 4 the Royal Rumble, and then he had the one-on-one match at Night of Champions. Sami Zayn, the Honorary Uso, we know that story. Kevin Owens out of anybody outside of Jey Uso might have got screwed over the most by the bloodline. Seth Rollins. Everybody there had history with the bloodline. The storytelling, phenomenal, man. Phenomenal storytelling. Great to phenomenal. I mean, great wrestling. It's in the moments. Cody, Rome. It's moments in there that we will never forget. The returns. Roman choosing to hit Seth with the chair. Cody finally winning. Man, Jay spearing Jimmy off the stage. Man, it's so many moments that we'll never forget, man. That was literally a movie. And it was great. It was a perfect. And if I'm recording this on a Friday, so if you saw SmackDown tonight, you know that Bloodline story about to get crazy, but we ain't gonna talk about that tonight. Um, but I thought it was impeccable, man. It was impeccable. That might be the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time. Um, think about it like this: some of you are gonna say Rock versus Austin at WrestleMania 17. If y'all remember correctly, most of the wrestling community wasn't happy about Stone Cold Steve Austin becoming a heel because the story just didn't make any sense. He kept saying he would do whatever he did to win, but why then? Why then? Why would he turn heel and align himself up with Vince McMahon? The storyline was kind of forced. If we can all be real about it, nothing about this main event was forced. The only thing that you could argue is Undertaker. But even let's paint this picture like this: I would have preferred to see Stone Cold too, right? But at least we can, even if it's a reach, at least we could say that the Undertaker was part of Roman's story at some point, right? Think about it. Roman beats him at WrestleMania 33. Undertaker later, like 2 years later, is in the tag team with him and stands by Roman and vouches for him. Then Roman turns into a monster that the Undertaker didn't approve of. So it's almost like the Undertaker takes that back and toe slams. I know what I just said is probably a reach. Okay, cool. Like I know what y'all gonna say. Oh, they just did that because they couldn't get Stone Cold. But what I just said just proves my point. At least I'm able to try to tie that in. There's nothing you could tie in. Stone Cold has never been a part of the Roman story. Now everybody wanted to see it for Stone Cold and The Rock, right? But you didn't have to do that at Mania. I would have loved it, don't get me wrong, but you didn't have to. But outside of that, this match has no flaws. So, well, all of that being said, I think WrestleMania 40 is top two manias of all time. Give me another card that has 7 to 8 4-star matches. Give me another card that your top 5 matches, 4 of them can be argued as the best match of the weekend. Like your ranking is gonna be based on preference for the most part. WrestleMania 39 is the only one that's close. There's only two: WrestleMania 39 and 17. That's it. WrestleMania 40 has more moments than the other two. I'm really on the verge of saying WrestleMania is the greatest main event the greatest WrestleMania of all time. I'm really on the verge. But before I say that, I'm gonna watch WrestleMania 17 again. I've watched 39 recently. I do think this was better than 39. I'm gonna watch 17 again, and I'm gonna get back with y'all on that. But it's for certain top three. It's for certain top three, and I give you now what my top five matches were for the weekend. Number 5, I got Seth versus Drew because it was a great match, and then the moment of Damian Priest catching in. Number 4, Rhea versus Becky. 3, and like I said yesterday, I had this at 2, so it's interchangeable, but I get it. Io versus Bayley at 3. Sammy versus Gunther at 2, and Roman versus Cody at 1. I'm looking at it right now. Between those 5 matches, 4 of those I would give at least a 4.5-star rating. 2 of those I would give a 5-star rating to. When the last main event Mania that you've seen with 2 or 3 5-star matches? Haven't seen it, right? The moments, like I said, I Show Speed getting RKO on the table. Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson helping out Rey Mysterio. Cody winning. Roman still continuing that history with Seth. Like the storylines have built themselves, man. And I think it was a phenomenal show. Shout out to Trips, man. The first one of his era is major. I mean, supremely major. So it's a lot that can happen after this Mania. It's a lot of storylines, and I'm gonna keep saying this. The beauty of it is that we have no clue what's about to happen because we're in a brand new era of wrestling. I feel like we're in a new golden era of wrestling. I also would say this: next year they gotta do better with the women. This is the second time the women, like Io versus Bayley and Rhea versus Becky, star still in matches. Stop throwing women in a 6-women tag. I need to see other singles matches from women at Mania that's not for a title. It's never been done. Need to happen next year. But I love the card, man. Night I will say night one started off a little shaky. Got a B. I'm like, all right, night two can't get a B. Like you're gonna advertise this as the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Night two can't get a B, and I gave night two an A. Night two has an A in my book. Um, so it was great, man. It was phenomenal wrestling, man. I loved WrestleMania 40. But those are my top five matches. Two matches that can be argued was a triple threat that could be top five, and I didn't even put the main event tag match in my top five. Roman and Rock versus Cody and Seth. I didn't put that there. Actually, you know what? That's five. I'm gonna take that back. So I'm gonna go Roman and Rock versus Cody and Seth at five, Rhea versus Becky at four, Io versus Bailey at three, Sammy versus Gunther at two, and Roman versus Cody at one. I take that back because that main event I would give 4.5 stars to. Seth versus Drew I probably give 4.25. You know what I mean? My what I think were the best entrances of Mania. I'ma go. This is tough, man. This is tough. Okay, it was some good entrances at Mania. But I'm gonna go with Roman at one. That opera and that school by a high school all city band, that was dope. I'm gonna go with Roman at one, man. It made it feel timeless. I'm gonna go Cody at two. Cody's entrance was dope. Rock at three. I'm gonna go Rhea's entrance at four, and then Seth's at five. I almost wanted to put Seth at one because it was just so different. The second night, I didn't like what he wore the first night, but that second night, everything was dope. So, yeah, man. So that's the recap. I will say this about NXT Stand and Deliver. If I was to include all the matches for the weekend, that triple threat match between Oba Femi, I'm an Oba Femi fan. If I've never said that on this show before, I'm an Oba Femi fan. Oba, Dijak, and Briggs, that match probably could be top three. That match was instant classic. That match is fire. Shout out to Trick Williams, man. They let Trick Williams get over on Melo. I thought Melo was gonna win, but I'm glad Trick won. That's pretty dope. Ilja looked like it was about to get called up. I said this early in the show. Roxanne Perez put on a wrestling clinic. So that was dope to see her do that. So shout out to NXT Stand and Deliver as well. But yeah, man, that's my recap, man. I think WrestleMania 40 is without a doubt top three. I'm gonna watch WrestleMania 17 again before I say it's the GOAT. But it's number 2 on my list, man. Phenomenal WrestleMania, man. So, like I said, it's a lot. It's a lot of directions I can go into. We eventually gonna see CM Punk versus Drew. Who we gonna see who gonna challenge Cody first. After Monday Night Raw, looks like Jey Uso about to challenge Drew. I don't expect him to win. I think it's gonna be bloodline interference. But yeah, it's a lot that's gonna happen. But shout out to Trips, man. Shout out to Paul Heyman, who gave, in my opinion, the greatest Hall of Fame speech of all time. So yeah, man. I think it's some good things going on. But let me stop rambling. I feel like I've been talking for like 45 minutes straight. Y'all make sure y'all follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook. Follow us on everything. Like and subscribe to the videos, y'all. Like and subscribe to the content. Let us know what you thought about WrestleMania 40. What was your top 5 matches for the weekend? Where do you have WrestleMania 40? Who was your top 5 entrances? What was your favorite moments? Mine, of course, one of them was Astro Speed and RKO, Cody winning. Were you emotional, Cody won? Tell us what your thoughts were. Were you disappointed in WrestleMania 40? Do you think like my grades are too generous? Let us know what you think about the show. Okay. All right. Well, that's it, man. To everybody that still watch wrestling, thank you for tuning in to Yes We Still Watch Wrestling. Y'all be blessed. Enjoy your weekend.